In 1976, America celebrated its 200th birthday, but in the shadows of Washington, D.C., secrets were buried deep. A simple office mistake started a chain of events that briefly showed a hidden world, a world of shadows, whispers, and impossible technology. It all started with an ordinary yellow folder in the wrong place. It was so normal, it was almost invisible, yet what was inside it would challenge everything we thought was real. This wasn't a planned leak or a big plot, just a normal mistake with scary results. Among a flood of documents that were made public, a scarlet-sealed folder slipped through, unnoticed. It was known as the Crimson File, and only a few people knew about it, none of whom were involved in making it public. The folder ended up in a public archive, squeezed between regular reports, a ticking time bomb waiting to be found. The system meant to protect secrets failed, not because of spies, but because of messy paperwork. For weeks, the folder sat quietly, like a ghost in the machine. The outside world didn't know, unaware that a document now available to the public could rewrite the history of the 20th century. The Crimson File held details of operations that officially never happened, sightings that were officially denied, and experiments that never existed. Daniel Price, a young analyst with a love for history, spent his nights in the National Archives, piecing together Cold War mysteries. One night, he found a folder with crimson borders, heavier paper stamped top secret, eyes only. It wasn't supposed to be there. Price's heart pounded. Protocol said to report it, but curiosity won. He took the folder to a quiet corner and opened it. The first page, a faded photo of a disc-shaped craft half buried in a desert surrounded by military figures. No date, no context, just the impossible. The next document, Project Nightingale, post-incident analysis. The memo talked about non-earthly materials, biological entities, and reverse engineering protocols. Pages were missing, gaps in the story, and deliberate redactions. Price realized he was holding something far beyond Cold War espionage. He was staring at a puzzle piece of a terrifying hidden reality. The air felt heavy with the weight of untold history. He knew he had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The Crimson Folder was a secret that needed to be known and feared. The Crimson File was like a puzzle made of impossible pieces, a high-level summary of the government's most hidden secrets. It talked about secret operations that didn't have to follow any rules, and adventures into the unknown that went beyond what science and good morals allowed. Operation Sunset described teams sent to get back strange crash sites, wreckage made of materials no one could figure out. Those famous Blue Book investigations, just a public show. Another section, Project Chimera, described scary experiments on people, attempts to connect minds with non-biological technology. The reports talked about making telepathy stronger, moving things with your mind, and mental breakdowns. Many pages were missing, leaving only a scary drawing of a program that treated people like lab rats. The most mysterious part had diagrams and math problems, propulsion systems that broke the rules of physics, and notes about changing gravity and moving through time. These weren't just ideas, they were being actively studied, and they came from recovered materials. The file was a blueprint for a secret future, built in the shadows. The world wasn't ready for what it showed. Project Chimera was the darkest secret in the file, a scary and ambitious bioengineering program. The government had non-human biological samples and tried to understand their genetic and brain makeup. Autopsy reports described circulatory systems without hearts and complex nervous systems, creatures that were both amazing and terrifying. The scientists' notes showed awe and fear, but national security concerns pushed ethical worries aside. The project aimed for a direct mind link, connecting human minds to the recovered biological materials. Test subjects either experienced confusing data floods or had catastrophic breakdowns. The goal was to get secrets from technology that was biological in nature. The last entry was an emergency report, a containment breach, uncontrolled psychic events, and a complete loss of contact. After that, the record stopped. The fate of Chimera and its subjects was a black hole in the file. It was a warning about the dangers of seeking knowledge that humans weren't ready for. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any report. Long before the Crimson File came out, there were whispers, rumors floating around in intelligence and space circles, stories about metals that remembered their shape, crafts that defied physics, and pilots forever changed by what they saw. The accidental leak of the file gave these shadows a name. A former Air Force officer talked about securing off-world technological assets, crafts not made by human hands. A retired physicist recalled being shown materials with strange isotope ratios and equations decades ahead of their time. These witnesses weren't looking for fame. They were haunted by secrets too heavy to carry alone. They spoke of a shadow government, working with endless money and no one to answer to. The technologies weren't just for defense, they were tools for control, able to change the weather, influence thoughts, and rewrite history. The Crimson File was more than just a leak, it was a crack in the dam. Through it the first drops of a scary truth began to flow. The world would never be the same. The leak of the Crimson File was a perfect storm of government screw-ups. A Freedom of Information request from a university opened a floodgate of documents. Tired employees missed the red-bordered folder. Daniel Price found it and tipped off an anonymous journalist. The resulting article, Leaked File Hints at Secret UFO Retrieval Program, was dismissed as a crazy story, until a picture of a Project Nightingale memo caused a huge stir. The government's response was quick. Agents locked up the archives, denied everything, and called the photo a fake, but the strong denials only made people more suspicious. The journalist was watched, sources were investigated, and Price disappeared from public view. The government got the file back, but they couldn't erase the copies Price had made. The accidental leak made a lasting crack in the wall of secrecy. Through this crack, the public saw a world they were never supposed to see. The cover-up became bigger than the leak itself. The truth, once seen, can't be unseen. The damage was done. After all that, citizen researchers popped up, armed with little bits of the Crimson File. They put the clues together, Project Nightingale, Project Chimera, the Desert Crash, into a new story. By looking through old records and comparing what people said, they built a different history from the pieces the government couldn't hide. This movement by regular people was a direct response to the government's silence. For every careful researcher there were many wild theories, but the main question remained: what else are they hiding? The Crimson File showed that the government could hide secrets on a scale that was hard to imagine. The search was all about taking back control of history and the truth. It was a fight for reality itself. The legacy of the file was a public that wasn't willing to just accept the official story. The search for the truth, no matter how strange, had just begun. Almost 50 years later, the Crimson File has become a modern legend, a ghost story that haunts internet forums and documentaries. The original papers are locked away, the government stays quiet, but the echo remains. It planted a seed of doubt that grew into a forest of suspicion. The event showed a huge gap between what people knew and what the government kept secret. The real legacy of the file is the question it left behind. What else is still hidden? These secrets aren't just about weapons, they're about reality itself and our place in the universe. The Crimson File is a warning story about the power of information and the danger of secrets that aren't checked. The search for truth continues, driven by the hope that the curtain will one day be pulled back for good.